I cannot do that here.
Not while I'm in town.
Okay. I'm pretty sure the mic is on. Okay. Okay, let's really quickly go over what I've tweaked and how the synergy plays with itself. So, while I'm leveling, I'm mostly going to be concerned with my weapons. And in my case, it's going to be the focus and the wand. And the focus does more damage. So in some particular cases, I know this is a little bit of a digression, but if you're a necro and you want to do more damage, drop the shield, add a focus, or a book, or whatever the fuck it's called for you. So these two things are going to be the most important. And then you just kind of fill things in later. So, first things first, this makes the... Let's go from the top. So, +3 to Hydra. 9% crowd control. And then we're going to go... Oh, and we're doing barriers too. Everything is barrier. And then from here, we've got 22% to conjuration skills. Things kind of changed a little bit. I'm trying to stay mostly percentile. Don't worry about overpowered because that's only a 3% chance. This is kind of a placeholder still. That's all this really is. I haven't found a nice pair of gloves yet, so it's dripped out with Sacred, you have that little white sheen at the top. But it's nothing fabulous. Also the strength. Like, what am I going to do with strength? So keep in mind that things can be just tweaked a little bit better. 22% increased damage after killing an elite. That's very important. 11% reduction. Also keep in mind that some of these upper, so right underneath where it says 668 armor. So when you're injured and I drink a potion, I get 30% of my life as a barrier. So you'll see me kind of take it to the nugget so that I am injured. And then when I take a potion, it's just kind of a little bit of this and a little bit of that. PvP's a little bit different. But yeah, and this build is a little too slow for PvP. Keep that in mind. Although there's a lot of range involved with this, and a lot of tracking, which means you can go places, but my shit still finds you. It's still hella slow, so you'd probably want to change something up for dash plus maybe teleport, because rogues are a little bit of a bitch. But yeah. And then what are we doing here? So 20% decrease in damage when I use my basic, and I use my basic a lot, the +1 to Hydra cluster, which gives me 8 Hydra heads in total, if I'm healthy. And then we do damage to an elite, gives me a barrier. And then again, we've thrown in whites for extra barrier generation. 21% for killing an elite, and this goes back to the packs. +3 to flame shield, +3. I don't use Frost Nova, but I could potentially trade up. See, here's the thing: Fireball is guaranteed when a corpse is made, and Hydras would have a 30% chance every time they attacked to generate a Frost Nova. So I'm not too sure. I don't know how I want to play that quite yet. But anyways, it kind of plays into itself. We'll have to see how this works out, because I'm slowly working my way to ice, but I haven't quite. I'm kind of halfway in between. ADHD as fuck type deal. So don't worry about core skills. I don't use those. I think this is more of a placeholder, if anything. But we do have 37 to injured enemies, and then our ultimate skill is +30, and then distant enemies is +30, and then we have our basic skill increase. This is nice for the ultimate, and we'll get into why this works with the ultimate in a minute. This used to be a yellow, so remember that your yellows can be turned into oranges by taking them to this fellow and doing the things that you need to do. And we're in Kovashed. So this used to be a yellow. A lot of these things, well, not so much anymore, but a lot of the initial things used to be yellows. They just had really nice things on them, and I took them and I turned them into whatever. So because we have +1 to conjuration, and I use Hydras, and then we have defensive skills, which is the ice shield and the flame shield. While I sit under Blizzard, I get a 18% decrease in damage, which is also played off of this here, which gives me a 20% decrease. So you can see where things start to seriously get some serious reduction going on here. Now I have also put Blizzard onto my passive. So over here, when we go, where art thou, Blizzard? When we go here and we go to assign, and we go up here, we've put Blizzard in, which means every 15 seconds Blizzard is going to fall on me and then follow me for 6 seconds. Now, I don't get the bonus explosions from the passive, and we're being a little bit ADHD here, but when we go into, when you cast Blizzard, it will periodically spawn exploding ice spikes that deal damage. You deal 25% extra damage to frozen enemies. So, the passive, this passive here, does not work with that modification to the skill. And I kind of feel that it should. But Blizzard thinks that that's a little too OP for their liking, so they haven't given it to me, which is fine. But I mean, you've given me other things, right? And I go and here's my rebuttal. This gives me a change in my ultimate. So if this gives me a change in my ultimate, then why hasn't this given me a change in my passive? So you're kind of fence riding, and I don't appreciate it. You need to pick a side of a fence and just fucking stick with it. So you either take one off or you put one on. Just yeah. Don't have your balls on one side of the fence and the other. It doesn't work that way. So fix that shit. And then we get into a little bit more of a percentage based here. So we've got 13% to close, and I'll pull up my stats here in a minute. But the big one here is 35% more damage to immobilized, stunned, or frozen enemies. And then we do 38%. Don't worry about the top part, worry about the bottom part here. We do 38% extra damage to stunned enemies. And then we do, oh, that's it. So these two things here work with bosses. So the stunned, and you'll see when you fight a boss. Yeah, and maybe we'll go and try and find one real quick. But when you find a boss, and they're underneath their health bar is going to be a yellow bar that slowly builds up. And when it gets to the max point, it's going to turn into a blue bar, and the boss is going to get stunned. So these two things play on a stunned boss. So trying to save my ultimate for a stunned position right before that yellow bar hits max position and we go into the blue bar, we want to pop our ultimate. So to reiterate, just before the bar turns blue, we're going to pop our ultimate, because our ultimate takes like 2.3 seconds for it to really get going. So we want all of that in play while the stun is just about to happen. Don't worry about the 1-2 flicks at the beginning. Worry about generating some of those balls so that we can, and it goes back to here. Now our lightning balls don't fuck off into the distance. They float around us and they do extra damage. So coming back to our ultimate, and when you want to set that up with the boss, you want to wait just until that yellow bar pops, and then boom, you're gonna pop your ultimate, and then and if I can time it right, we'll throw in the fire shield. And we've also popped a couple hydras, because the hydras do really nice damage. And we're still working on the paragons, and we'll get to that in a minute as well. So and then yeah, Blizzard does explosions. So I'm mostly mastery skills. That's mostly what I'm popping. So I'll pop blizzards everywhere, and then the blizzards do the 500 extra damage, and you'll see it. It'll be a mini explosion in a circle, but it'll be like a drilling and blasting charge. It won't happen all at once. It'll be in succession. So it'll go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and it'll go around in a little circle. It won't be that many. I think it's like 6 or 7 explosions. You'll see them. But if I can drop a lot of them, then it becomes a game changer. So now that we've gone over the gear that I'm using, let's pop into the abilities real quick. So first thing we're going to do is Arc Lash. Now Arc Lash is attached to our ultimate. Because Arc Lash is free, we get unstoppable currents. So every time I use a lightning skill, I get a random core, conjuration, or mastery skill. Now we're kind of hoping for the orbs. That's really what we're hoping for. If we get the pet, which is the conjuration. Then we come up here to conjuration, and we say, okay, so there's a twofold here. Now, chain lightning, you're not really going to see that pop off, but you'll definitely see how many pets you have out, which will be this guy, or you'll see how many balls you have out when they orbit you. And now, because it's random, you're either going to get like, sometimes you'll get like fucking 10 balls orbiting you at once, and you just fucking melt, just gone. And then other times you're going to get pets. So now I've got like 10, 15 pets floating around me. So this is where this comes in, right? So our master, so I've given it 2%. And we still have one more skill that we need to get from the maps. So do your prestige, we'll call it, with the specific district, a region. We'll call it a region. Let's call it a region. So I'm either getting a whole bunch of orbs, or I'm getting a whole bunch of conjurations. Either way, it's good for me. Back up to the top, because we're not done with our clash yet. Critical strikes are nice. And we've gone down, and speaking of criticals, hopefully when we're doing, we've gained, so every time I shock an enemy, I gain 3% to, now I start off at like 9.1, so I started off at around 10% crit rate. And then every time I hit something, we get 3%. But because Arc Lash hits everything, when I swing once and I hit 3 people, that's 3 times 3. So now my 10% turns into 20%. So you see what happens here? Yeah, really nice. And then all of a sudden, now we've got orbs and all of this other fuckery happening around us. So this specific skill makes sense. And then really quickly, while we're in here discussing the ability, we go right down to the bottom. So we increase our attack speed, because that allows us to get more core mastery and conjurations off at once. Now, I was doing something on top of that, but we've replaced that with something else, which makes me a little nicer. And then constantly creates crackling energy. Now, I don't know if this is absolutely worth having. I'd have to take it off and kind of, or maybe read about what type of numbers this brings to the table, and we can change that. So, Arc Lash also stuns things every 10 swipes. And remember, it hits everything. So one hit and I stun a bunch of NPCs at once. And then coming to here, we bring down our cooldowns by 0.15% every time I hit a stunned enemy. So that goes back to the ultimate and bringing that down. But also the ice shield and the flame shield, because those are also cooldowns. So we're bringing those down as well with this. 1 into Fireball, and that's because Fireball goes into passive skills. When an NPC dies, it turns into a bomb for 50% of the Fireball damage. So if we come over here to Fireball, Fireball is roughly 3,000. Let's cut the difference and just say it's 3,000. So 50% of 3,000 is 1.5k. So every time something dies, it generates 1.5k in damage. Now, this is important because we want all of the little fuckers that we can kill really fast to congregate around the elites and turn them into bombs. Pew, 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 pew. Now, the even better part about this is if they're fallen, leave the fucking shaman alone until the elite is dead. Now, if the shaman happens to be the elite, well, same thing kind of applies. But if you can keep the elite alive longer to respawn the fallen, which are the little Rakanishu, then you can constantly have a bomb around the elite, right? Let them come back. I'm going to kill them and turn them into a bomb again. Pew, 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 pew. And then once the other elite is dead, go over to the shaman, kill the shaman, and then kill the little rest of the little Rakanishu shits. So, that's what Fireball is about. Fireball doesn't do anything but be passive little bombs. Coming down here, Fire Shield. Fire Shield is nice because it does. Everybody's on right now, so I'm probably gonna play with them. But I might. Trust me, this build works. This build works. Wait, let's. We were crushing. What is this? Tier 8s. There's 3 of us. There's a Necro, Barb, and myself, and we were crushing these. We're on our way to tier. He's like, "You want to do a tier 10?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. Let's fuck around." And then he slowly worked it up. Like, come on, get to it. But yeah, we'll have this all kinked out later. But yeah, no, this build slaps. So, Fire Shield. Fire Shield is important mostly for the fact that it does health for me. So 50% of my missing life. And that's why you see me bring it down to the nugget and then use Fire Shield. Now, in some cases, I know what hurts and what doesn't, so I need to pay attention. I'll let my health fluctuate lower than what it should, which is an unsafe situation. Say in a hardcore play, you would never do what I'm doing in a hardcore play. But for softcore, and because I'm eternal and I have an infinite amount of lives, I let that health drop just a little bit too much, and then I use Flame Shield to gather 50% of what I've lost. And then on top of that, we're bouncing around between the extra shields that we have. So remember, when I'm critically injured, I get a bubble that makes me invincible for 3 seconds. When I attack an elite, I get, and it's every, I think it's every, where are you? Every 30 seconds. So every 30 seconds I can have one of these. But also keep in mind, when I'm injured, I'm gaining 30% of my life as a barrier. And we go to Ice Shield, which is another barrier. And while we're on the discussion of all of these barriers, not the bubble that makes me infinite, but the barriers, we come to this, which every time a barrier is activated, I get 24% extra chill because I'm iced out as fuck. I'm like a 2000s rapper. That's right. I got all this ice. So, going back to having the barrier makes me stronger with my Blizzard. And Blizzard is, remember, passive. So I'm getting it every 15 seconds, but now I'm dropping it with L2 as well. And then on top of that, we've got the when we cast Blizzard, we're doing extra frozen damage. Plus, when we cast Blizzard, we're also doing 20% reduction in damage for myself. Holy. So it's starting to all come together now, right? So now, when we're casting Ice Armor, we're doing 25% increase in mana regeneration. And then on top of that, now this build is a little tricky because things turn other things on and off. So if something's on fire, burning, and then I freeze it, it stops burning. But then if I add the burning property back to it, I'm pretty sure it's frozen with burning, but it could potentially lose the chill factor, so I have to be careful. I haven't quite read into that yet. Hopefully, the burning, the chill, and the freezing are all one thing, but I'm pretty sure the chill is replaced by the freezing. Did that make sense? I think that made sense. So there's a little bit of ebb and flow that needs to happen with this build, but it's still pretty wreck face. I don't do anything with Frost Nova, but again, we could take that off and put it onto passive, replace Fireball, and then I have a 30% chance every time I attack with a Hydra or a pet, which is also the ultimate, which drops a conjuration to do. So you can see where that leads to, right? Yeah. But I haven't quite decided yet. It's there if I want it. So, moving down a little bit, we have aligned the elements, which is every time I don't fuck around with an elite, I'm gaining 1%, and that's probably for the first hit that happens. So the first hit that happens, if I haven't fucked around with an elite in a long time, 40%. But every time I get attacked, this thing will creep back up until they attack again. Now, I'm in the thick of things, so it doesn't really work out, but it works out for the beginning of the fight. So I haven't quite decided whether or not I'm going to keep this. If I take it out, I'm probably going to put it into here, but we'll have to see how that goes. Now, we've already discussed what this does, so we're going to move on. Hydras. Hydras do burning, and they do distance too, right? So I can distance myself. These are my utility tool. They are my everything tool. They do everything. They are everything. They are a lovely thing to have. You'll see me use them a lot, and basically what I'll do is I'll put them in a corner somewhere. So we'll be fighting. Now you have to watch that they don't clip through the wall and end up in here while you're fighting somebody out here and they can't actually do any damage. So you have to be careful of that. But you can put your hydras in specific areas and have them attack. Hopefully a target of your choice. But it takes a little finessing, but it's definitely there. Definitely. Also, when you're gathering lanes, the hydras are nice because they're doing damage, and I'm also giving myself the distance that we need so that we can do a little bit. I think I do like 33% extra damage to ranged enemies, and that's kind of where that. And if they're really soft bodied, then they blow up, and everything else kind of blows up on top of it. So I can walk to wherever I want to go and kill things while I'm walking and just keep walking because my hydras do most of the work and then the fireball picks up the rest. And if the pile gets too big, I just stop and throw down fire shield, which is triangle, and bing bang boom, the whole thing is dead and I move on. Life is good. So, back to it. Let's go. That's basically all of this. This is kind of the this is the other half. So it'd kind of be like Hydra and Blizzard. Those are the two big things. And extra damage plus if I cast it at above 50 or above, I get an extra 4%, which leads back to the barrier and also leads back to how often this gets used. Every time a barrier is activated, you get 24% more chill, which leads to frozen enemies, which I do a lot of damage to. Frozen's Frozen skills to elite. Yeah, it's okay, but more so for this. So 9% increased on chill and 18% increased to frozen enemies. So this is an everything. And then the burning, which gives me 10% increase in mana, also plays on this guy here because I do bounce back and forth. Now I did have that up to 20, but I removed that and put it here so we could have the crit. And now coming down here, we do 10% extra close enemies and then a reduction of 20% when I use a shock skill on them. So because I'm constantly using a shock skill, we're getting a 40% reduced damage because remember, we come back to this. Where are you? Where art thou? This guy here. So basic skill grants 20% reduction in damage, and remember, it's Arc Lash, which is an electric skill, which allows me to reduce my damage by 40%. Can I go have a hoot now? So, let's move on to the Paragon real quick. Not much has happened here, but this is how I've done it so far. I could probably remove this for an extra little tidbit up there, but for now we've got it in here. More importantly, we're after the mastery skill. So 27.7% increased damage and then an extra 20% increase in damage. Non-mastery, and then we took this side up. And then we've tilted the next one this way so that we have access to this glyph and this glyph. I wouldn't necessarily say easier, but at the same time, you know what I potentially should have done? I don't know if that's going. No, you know what? It might be cheaper for me to just scooch over here, snag this real quick, and then move on from somewhere else. So because I'm so far from over here, what I would potentially, like, I don't really need this. I don't really need that. These two things would be nice, but I don't need them. I don't need anything over here. So you know what we'll potentially do is go this way. Pew. And then we'll head off that way. Because I'd come up here for this, and maybe we'd grab one or two things up along the way. And that would be it. Yeah, I would definitely pop over here for this, and then scooch over here for that, but that would be it. And then we would go this way. So that's my ideal thing for now, and then we'll figure out from wherever. Now I did a lot of core building on the first one, but again, very beast. I may restart the stream without the mic because everybody's got families and shit's so fucking chaotic and we're just all over the place and it's whatever. So we'll have to see. But yeah, that's the yo, fix this horse, man. Why do I have a sticky horse every time I load it up? We're not here to complain about the game. You can see the blizzard follows me around. Right, if we're gonna... Those are the explosions you see. There's that manipulation of the hydras. There's the healing factor. Really quickly. I know there's a lot of elites here, so maybe we can quickly... I might get fucked up here because I'm super slow turtle. Am I not turtle enough for the turtle club? Turtle. There's a couple dungeons that have some good elites, but... let's see if we can't scooch together a couple of elites. There's not really much, eh? This game fucking free. This game better not have froze. This game has a really bad habit of freezing right now. I don't care about that. So, there you have it. Oh, what's down here? So yeah, it works really nice. Works really well in a group situation. I have no trouble with survivability. Solo survivability either. Bosses are quite easy. I basically soloed everything. I did the capstone solo. Here's the interesting part about this build is that I had level 25 to 40 armor, and I was still able to crush the capstone and carry a single other person with me. And it just got easier every other time. So I've done the capstone. I've done the capstone to get into world level 3 times, and twice I carried one other person. And I was doing this with level 25 armor. So that goes back to the fact that we were creating a glass cannon, right? Now, granted, it is nice. Like we've always had like plus 20 to killing elites, or after killing elites and stuff like that. It's just gotten better. But coming into World Tier 3, I had no problem getting a hold of all of this drip. You'll notice that none of my rings have changed yet, because I don't have a proper substitute for them. So it's just that's just the way it is. So it's good. It all works out really well. The build is sustainable. Grims are going well. Dungeons are easy. I can solo. You could probably get away with soloing the butcher with this build pretty easily. Might take a bit of kiting, but you should be able to manage the butcher with this build. Yeah, I did all of my strongholds by myself. I would say 99% of the things that I have done in here have been solo. And then getting into world level 3 and then doing most of this solo with level 25 gear. Level 25, level 35, level 40 gear. Right? There was a little bit of succession here and there. Now, I was a little squishy, but if you play hardcore, then you're familiar with just not getting hit. So, it's not really a worrisome for me. And because I've got an infinite amount of lives, I'm equally not as worried. I have so much gold too, right? That's fine. And then basically what we do is we bounce back and forth between dungeons and doing obols. So for example, there is a dungeon here, and then there's a thing outside. It's a gold ring. You go to that gold ring, you get obols. You go to the gambling station, which is like, I think it's down here. It's down here somewhere. And then gamble yourself some gloves or whatever the fuck you need. And when you get into world level 3, you're going to notice that some of the gambling things are dripped, and she changes them every so often. And it's also now to the point where I can add sockets to my gear without having to worry about the necessary materials, because it's easily, like, a world event is easily done, which means sockets are easy to come by. So, that's that. Thank you very much for watching. Enjoy your gameplay. And, slay, queen, slay!